welcome. I'm Kamla. My guest today is Alam Khan, who is a musician, performer, and a teacher. Welcome, Alam.
Thanks, Kamla. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. So, Alam, you are the son of a famous father, Ali Akbar Khan, who was one of the early Indian classical musicians to come to the U.S.
Yep, that's true. In the 50s, he first came to America, and then in the 60s, he started teaching in Berkeley. And the school was established in 67, the Ali Akbar College of Music, and then it moved to various places in Marin County, where we are to this day. And next year it'll be our 50th year, our 50-year anniversary.
2017. 50 years.
Yeah.
So one of the famous lines that I like to repeat is that if it were not for Ali Akbar Khan's music, then the Grateful Dead would not be around.
That was from that film that I was in a long time ago by Mickey Hart, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us a backstory of what was your father's relationship with the Grateful Dead, who were also from Marin County in a way.
Back in those days, Mickey and Mickey Hart, the drummer for the Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia, Phil Lesh, all these guys were around, and they would come to the college, and I know Mickey in particular was doing, sometimes they would do like the sound and things like that at these all-night concerts that we'd have. And it was just, you know, a lot of fun, and in India, all-night concerts is a common thing that happens. So here, probably not as much. So everybody, all the students, and then, you know, music lovers, everybody was there having fun, good time. Zakir Hussain was teaching at the school at that time, and, you know, percussion-wise, people, you know, were fascinated with it. Mickey and Zakir had a very close relationship, still do, and did a lot of collaborating. So during that times, you know, my father was one of the biggest musical figures in the Bay Area, and unique in the sense that he did Indian music. So people just gravitated towards him. Famous, not famous, all kinds of people. And there was a beautiful community, a great time. I've heard many stories. I wasn't around. I would have liked to have been, but.
So he played the Sarode.
My father was maestro of the Sarode. He was considered to be the most famous and greatest Sarode player.
What is a Sarode?
Sarode is a 25-stringed fretless instrument. Some people compare it to a lute, but it's like the brother to the sitar. So sitar and sarod are arguably the most common instruments, most well-known in India, And the sarod is played by sliding, where the sitar is played by pulling primarily. The sarod is picked, while the sitar, you have a kind of steel plectrum kind of cage thing on your finger called a mizrab, but you play like this. Sarod is like this. So sarod has a little warmer tone. It's a more warm tone, whereas sitar has a more high-pitched or kind of twangy in a sense, more resonating strings. It's very easy to identify. Sarod is a little more smooth-sounding, and it's a slide instrument. So it's a combination of, you know, slide guitar, banjo. I'm using Western instruments to compare it to, that kind of stuff. 25 strings, lifetime to master, if one lifetime, maybe more. And
now you sound like your dad.
Yeah, well, I have that instilled in me from a long time. So
because he was a very patient man.
He was definitely, you know, considering his upbringing with his father, which was not that patient. It was a militaristic upbringing, if you will. Of the way he had to learn music. 18 hours a day for 20 years he had to practice, and it was very intense. He had no childhood. It was only music, music, music. My grandfather wanted to pass everything that he had, you know, sacrificed in his life, all the years he had you know, devoted to and dedicated to learning the music. He wanted to pass it all on to my father. And so
not to his daughter?
Later on, he started to teach my aunt, Annapurna Devi. So my father and her learned the most. Raviji came also.
Raviji is Ravi Shankar.
Ravi Shankar came, Pandit Ravi Shankar came when my father was a teenager and joined the learning that was going on. And then other famous musicians throughout, the years, Nikhil Banerjee, people like
Nikhil
that.
Banerjee plays?
Sitar as well, so another very famous sitar player. So my grandfather, he wanted to teach everything to my father, pass it all on, and the way he did it was a very strict, kind of militaristic, really. There was punishment, there was all kinds of things if he didn't do things right, playing-wise. Father had no childhood. He went to school with the Maharaja's children, because my grandfather was the court musician for the town Maihar, where they grew up. And, my father coming here and having, me and my brother and sister with my mom, who's American, it was...
And that's in Marin County.
In Marin County, so in the 80s. So it was, he didn't want to have that same relationship that he had with his father. And my relationship with him was very loving. He liked me playing music, whether it was guitar or other stuff like that. If I was into Indian music, he was excited and would start teaching. But he never forced me. He said, do what you want. And the more I got serious about it, the more his teaching got serious. And he got more strict. So he was very patient to me and all of his, thousands of students that he had when his life was not like that growing up.
So your grandfather actually founded what is in Indian classical music, North Indian classical music or Hindustani music, it's called Gharana. So he founded the Maihar Gharana?
Yes, so the Gharana...
What is a Gharana?
Gharana is like a school or family of music. In the old days, there's a certain amount of Gharanas that there are now, So my family's Gharana is the Maihar Seni Gharana, and Seni means coming from Tansen. Tansen was the court musician for Emperor Akbar in the 1600s. So he was the musician that we trace most of our music back to. It was taught through blood for many years, and then it went off to other people. They were like family. It's almost like you make them your sons and daughters when you teach them, the gurus, the masters. So our Gharana is the Baba Alauddin Maihar Seni Gharana.
That is, your grandfather's name is Baba Alauddin.
Yeah, so,
okay.
Or Maihar, meaning that's where he settled, Maihar Seni Gharana. Some people just say Maihar Gharana. It's it's a loose term nowadays, because unless you learned from someone that was one of the greatest exponents of that Gharana, say my grandfather, my father, my aunt, Panditji, people like that.
Panditji meaning Ravi Shankar. So he belonged to the Maihar Gharana.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So my family's music is what everyone heard first, by my father coming to America and Ravi Shankar coming to America during the Beatles, all that time. That was all Maihar Gharana style from my grandfather. So this all came from my grandfather. If you didn't learn from one of those people directly, it gets watered down, it gets loosely used. You say you're from the Gharana, but unless you really learn from one of those people, you can kind of discern who has the real talim, the real training and knowledge, and who doesn't. And people like to do mishmashes nowadays. Like they say, they learn from multiple styles, multiple Gharanas. They play different kinds of styles from different people, which is the kind of an evolution of the music, or a de-evolution, I don't know what you want to call it. It's a different thing, blending things together. There's interesting things about that, and there's things that are not maintaining the purity as well, but that's a big subject, so anyway.
What are your earliest memories of music in your house? Because your mother is American, she listened to Crosby, Still and Nash. Your father's this, classically trained Indian musician who listened to, to a young person's ears, they may sound long, droning pieces.
My father didn't listen to much music at home.
No?
No. He spent his entire life doing music that I think when he performed and he taught, he did music. Otherwise, in his off time, he didn't listen that much.
He loved cooking.
He loved cooking.
And cars.
He liked cars and cooking, yeah, definitely, yeah. True. But he listened to certain musicians here and there, and he would listen to certain vocalists, and he liked...
Like who?
I remember going in his tape collection and finding tape cassettes of Barkad Ali Khan, like Tumri things, and Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab, all these.
But you also discovered an unlikely tape there, right?
What was that?
So one of the grunge tapes or something you discovered in your father's box?
No, that would have been mine.
yours?
No, that was my music that I listened to. My father listened to, some, but not all the time. It was more watching movies, relaxing, having his students over, talking about stories, doing things like that.
And your mom?
My mom my mom listened to, like you said, Crosby, Stills and Nash and Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and all these, great bands and great musicians from back then. And she shared those with me because I used to play electric guitar.
So that was the first musical instrument you played?
No, I started on Sarode when I was 7, and then I kind of got into guitar later on. I dabbled in Sarode here and there.
Maybe because it's fretless, perhaps it was difficult?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's just, Indian classical music is difficult to begin with. You have to have someone either like being very strict, or you have to be very drawn to it and want to do it. I was in between because I was listening to music that was not Indian classical music, and so I like guitar. I like listening to grunge music and things like that. And I'd learn these songs, and one of my father's students also used to teach me songs on the guitar, and then he would trade that and learn.
Who was that?
Music from my father. Jai Uttal.
Oh,
yeah.
Supposedly the story goes that Jai Uttal was the one through whom Steve Jobs got to know about the Baba in India.
I read something about that. Yeah, I'm not sure about that story. I don't know much about it.
Because he went to Reed College, didn't he? Jai Uttal.
I think he did. Jai's been a student of my father since he was a teenager, I believe. So when I was playing guitar, my father was like, why don't you... I learned from some other people as well. But then Jai, he's like, why don't you teach all of them and I'll teach you, we'll trade in that way. So I started learning Jimi Hendrix songs and other songs that Jai would teach me, and then I'd perform at like talent shows, and at my school I had a band, and my father would be, very good, and he liked it, and then he would come downstairs and I would ask for my guitar, and then he would start playing it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And then, and then it was like when I was a teenager, I started listening to my father's music more, and I just fell in love with it in a whole different way. Before I listened to it, or I heard it, but I didn't listen to it. It didn't
Register.
Go inside and resonate with me. I think I was too young to understand or appreciate what it was. So after listening to all this other music that I enjoyed from different genres, I found that feeling I was getting from all that other music all in my father's playing. Like everything was there. The whole world was there. And it was haunting in a good way. And I fell in love with it, and I've never stopped since then. My mother actually, I came to find out she was tricking me later on, but she said, let's both learn Sarode together. Because I had already been studying and I hadn't been taking it very seriously. I would take some vocal classes, some Sarode classes, and then I would just go do something else. And so she said, let's learn together. I said, okay. So we started playing together. I had already picked it up and stopped a few times. So this time, I started to go very fast. I'd hear stuff, I'd learn very quickly, and I'd just keep going. Whereas then my mother was kind of, trying to keep up a little bit, and then I could see, I don't know if I realized it at the time, but I was like, well, you're just doing that to get me into it, and you didn't really... She's like, I kind of wanted to learn a little bit too, but yeah.
Okay, so how old were you?
It worked. I was probably 12 or 13.
So as a teenager?
As a teenager.
Okay.
And then, I started going, and I just never stopped. And with her support and my father's support, and I just kept on going. And I kept on studying. I dedicated my life to it, and that's what I do now. I'm a full-time Sarode player and composer and teacher and performer. So
your dad must have been over the moon.
I'm sure he was happy.
Because he probably wanted to channel all that he knew to you, even though you have older brothers.
Yeah, but he definitely was, and we spent many years together and teaching me in a group setting at the school with all the other students, and at home alone. He would teach me quite a bit. That's where I think I was formed into the musician I am the most, or my appreciation or approach and respect for the music, the way I play, those kinds of values with the music, I really learned from doing alap and these...
What is alap?
Alap is when you're playing without the drums, when the raga is unfolded in the beginning, and it's just the instrumentalist.
Drums being the tabla.
So the alap is the section where it's really purely just raga. There's no rhythmical things going on. There's no thrills. It's all just pure raga being expressed. And some people say that that's the most advanced stage, like you learn that later on. But I learned that from the beginning, and I found I got the greatest picture of the ragas and the approach and the sentiment and the feeling and the mood and all these things that you try to convey when you're teaching someone or you want to convey to your student. I got that through learning alap. I learned to listen. I learned how to listen. He taught me how to listen.
What is it about music that makes you happy?
I think that music just simply is beautiful. I think that nature is beautiful, and I think that music is beautiful. I think that the notes have such, emotive powers. So many emotions can come out through the music. They can excite you, they can sadden you, they can lift you up, they can make you feel wonder and detachment, all the rasas that we have in Indian music. I think that it's very powerful and healing, and it can give you peace and make you a better person. That's what my father always said. Real, true music will make you, a better person, and when you learn it, you become a better person. You want to be loving and kind so that you can, otherwise this music won't come through you properly.
Do you find yourself becoming a better person?
Yeah, I think that I generally would like to think that I'm a good person, that I have been.
No, because as you started as a young person. As you grow old, because your dad gave it to you at a very different age.
I think that I'm a very sensitive person, and I think that I'm not sure if I was before or I became more so after. I think that I've always been sensitive, and I think that's kind of one of the things that people need in order to really learn this music. There's different degrees of sensitivity or ways that one expresses that, but by being sensitive, I could be receptive truly in a very deep level. I could listen to a certain degree. I could channel my feelings and emotions through the instrument. My father cared about everybody so much. He took on a lot of his students' problems and issues and acted as a father to a lot of them, and
he was very attached to them.
Yeah, he was a channel for he was a channel for the music, but also things that were going around him. He would kind of take that in, and sometimes in a negative way. It wouldn't affect him well. He would feel sick or ill from all these things, but it affected him very much, what was going on around him. He's very receptive. So he channeled this all into his music. He used to tell me, I would say to him, why don't you cry? Or something about crying, or maybe not why don't you cry, about just the topic of it or something. He said, I cry when I play, inside. He's like, I'm crying when I'm playing, inside, not visibly, but that's what I'm doing. And my grandfather used to say, real music, true music, is when one forgets to clap when the music is done, but only tears are coming from their eyes. There's none of this kind of stuff, which is what our culture is greatly about these days. It's entertainment, it's bing, bang, boom, theatrics, and people are just looking for fast things and they're clapping, or explosions or big grand things. But true, beautiful, powerful music, it doesn't need any of that. It just comes out like that, the tears.
So you live in a place which is home to Santana, and was also home to Tupac Shakur?
Tupac Shakur, yeah.
Did he ever come
amongst
by?
other places, but I know that he grew up there. He went.
But did he ever come by your school?
Oh no. That's such a different world from the world that Tupac was in. Of rap and hip hop and all that. He was not.
You know why I'm asking? Because now you're collaborating with a rap artist.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I was asking.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? Because you grew up listening to rap too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite a bit.
What did your dad think of rap?
Too much talking, not enough music. Yeah, he used to say that to me.
So do you agree to that?
I understand where he's coming from, but rap music is so foreign to him or where he came from that I don't expect him to really understand it. It's a relatively, it's a young musical style. It started in the 70s. So it's only been around for so long, right? I used to make beats for years. I had a little studio in my backyard in this building we had outside. And my father's room was right above it. And I would just be in there and boom, 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 and like all day, I'd be taking his nap and then boom, boom. Hopefully he didn't hear me. I don't think he did. He never complained. I made an album with my friends in high school, and I played it for him. Or maybe I wasn't there. I don't think I wanted to be there. I think my mom played it for him. And he said to me, yeah, it's okay, but not enough music. Because rap music, is really loop-based, and it's mainly about the words. It's not
it's
a
also
whole bunch of
protest music.
Oh, it can be. I mean, what we were talking about when rapping about was not that.
Okay.
But I grew up listening to it. There's a huge history of hip-hop music and rap music in the Bay Area, and from stuff that's not so great to listen to, pretty negative, to conscious and underground indie rap. And that's where I fell in love with the indie rap once I discovered it. And I started to make a lot of beats and things like that. And I listened to one guy in particular. I listened to there's a crew from the Bay Area, from Oakland, and they broke off into LA as well. They're called Living Legends. Some of the famous people are Merce, Grouch, Eli, Mystic Journeyman, and more. Eli was my favorite, Eli and the Grouch. But I liked Eli's raps because it was very rhythmical, fast and rhythmical. And
so it appealed to the musician in you,
yes,
the classically trained musician,
yes,
with the tal and everything.
Yes. So I loved it. And he also is a producer, so he made all the music for his albums and rap, and he was extremely prolific. He is prolific. He made so many albums. And once I got into that kind of music, I would still listen to popular stuff, but I really fell in love with that kind of music, underground. Atmosphere is the group in the Midwest. Or Rhymesayers is the label with all the different musicians under it, the rappers. Living Legends on the West Coast, so I started listening to him a lot. I'd be on tour with my father in India, like on the train, and I'd be listening to Eli and Grouch and all these guys from the Bay Area that I love, this underground music, and all my grunge music and all the other stuff that I love, and electronic or classical, Western classical. I listen to everything. Oldies, all that kind of stuff. But in that time period, I really loved hip hop. And so it was kind of really, really special when me and Eli hooked up through social media randomly. I posted a video of me playing in Delhi with my older brother, Ashish Khan. And I got a tweet from him saying, "Hey, Alam, I love your instrument. Like, this is great. Would you want to get on a record with me?" And I was like, this can't be this guy. Probably not. And his handle was The Real Eli. So I'm like, well, it says The Real Eli, so maybe it is. And then he started messaging me and telling me about this project, and I was like, this really is Eli. I'm like, that's so cool. I've been listening to your music for years. I've been a huge fan. He's like, well, that helps the cause, doesn't it?
So you were starstruck.
I listened to this guy's music for so long. And in that world of hip-hop music, they were like the top for me. Forget about the famous people and all that stuff. This music meant more to me. So that to me was like, I had a lot of respect for these guys. So connected, made some music with Amp Live and Eli on an album, Amp Live from Zion I crew. And that was super fun. That was the beginning. And then I had the idea later on, a year or two later, to make a track that was Sarode and tabla, Indian classical, with Eli doing the rapping. And there's a section of our music called Sawal Jawab, which means question and answer. So in my mind, I had the whole song in my mind. It was just going. So I said, Eli, you want to do this track? You want to just meet up when I'm in LA next? Sure. So comes over to Salar's house, and I'm like, okay, man, this is the section we do called Sawal Jawab. I do all this kind of stuff, then Salar answers. So then I said, so
it's like Jugalbandi.
Yeah, well, Jugalbandi is just duet, we'll do that. And I said, okay, instead of me playing and then Salar answering, let us play together. And that's called something's called satsangat, when you play together. So it's a mixture between satsangat, playing together, drums and instrument, and Sawal Jawab, question and answer. So I had me and Salar do the question. Okay, so Salar plays the same thing on the drums. Eli, it's your turn. Now return the phrase in that amount of time. Okay, and then we break it smaller amounts of time, smaller amounts of time, smaller amounts of time. That's how the song Atma was created. And then I said, okay, now
So
Eli,
that became Atma,
that became Atma, and I said, then,
which is a soul, which means soul.
yeah. So then I was like, let's, you rap your verse now. You do your full verse, and the beat is going to be me and Salar just playing a gut. A gut is a theme in Indian music. When you play a gut, you're just playing the theme. We'll play that, and that will be the beat. We'll show people that they can listen to Indian classical music, acoustic instruments, and you don't need these big beats with electronics, which I made for years. But since I had that knowledge of making beats and listening to so much hip-hop music, I felt like I could take that into this way and apply it in a way with acoustic instruments and make it crossover and make people understand. And for the most part, I think people have. I mean, if not, I like it.
So that
we all like it a lot.
So that became the Grand Tapestry album.
Great. Well, the Atma was the single. It was just going to be a one-off, and then we decided to make a whole record. Let's see how many songs we can do, and we ended up making a record for the last 2 years. And our name is Grand Tapestry, and our record is going to be released this year. So everything's coming together now. We're going to start doing concerts. I feel like my life growing up, listening to hip hop and all this stuff, sometimes I felt guilty that I should have been spending more time with my father and learning classical and only focusing on that. But I was drawn to this music. Now I feel like it's coming out. I always had my classical and I had other things, and I never mixed them. I lived two separate lives, kind of, musically.
But now you're bringing
Now
together.
this is myself really coming out. So in that way, it feels good. I feel like this is myself. This is my music. So I do my classical fully, teach it fully, but this is something that two sides of my music that I really love. So that's why I feel really happy about it. I believe in it. There's nothing like it. Never heard anything like this. And it's not even, you can't even put it into a genre. So I don't know. Record labels and different people are saying, this is really great because there's nothing like it. And also, maybe we don't know what to do with it. So we're doing it all independently. Eli has a big following, we have our following, Salar and I, and we're doing it all together independently, and so I have high hopes for it.
Alam, we wish you all the best, and thank you so much for painting the grand picture of your musical legacy and journey.
Thank you, Kamla.
And thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week with another episode. And in case you missed any of our shows, you can watch them on our YouTube channel.